Maya Reyes stood at her kitchen window, watching the morning sun paint the Colorado mountains gold. Her hands were wrapped in soft cotton gloves, the same cream-colored ones she wore every single day. It was Tuesday, which meant Lucia would ask again about parent night at school. Maya already knew what her answer would be. The coffee pot beeped behind her. She turned and poured herself a cup, careful to grip the handle just right. 2 years of practice had made her movement smooth, almost natural. Nobody watching would guess how much concentration it took to do simple things anymore. Mama. Lucia appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. At 8 years old, she had her father's dark eyes and Maya's stubborn chin. Can we have pancakes? Of course, baby. Maya pulled out the mixing bowl. Get dressed first, okay? School bus comes in 40 minutes. Lucia didn't move. She twisted the hem of her pajama top between her fingers. Are you coming tonight? There it was. Maya kept her eyes on the pancake batter. Coming where? Mama, you know where. Parent night. Mrs. Chen said all the parents should come. We're showing our art projects. Maya's chest tightened. She pictured the crowded gymnasium, the bright lights, all those eyes turning to look. Honey, I have 3 dresses to finish by Friday. Mrs. Patterson needs hers for a wedding. You always have dresses to finish. Lucia's voice cracked just a little. You never come to anything anymore. The words hit harder than Maya expected. She set down the whisk and turned around. Lucia was staring at the floor now, blinking fast. I'm sorry, baby. I can't tonight. Why not? Lucia looked up, tears threatening to spill. Is it because of your hands? Maya froze. They never talked about it directly. Not anymore. Other kids' parents come. Even Diego's dad comes and he works at the hospital doing surgeries and stuff. But you're just home and you still won't come. Lucia, I know what happened, Mama. I know about the fire. I know you tried to save Papa. Lucia's voice dropped to a whisper. But everybody already knows. Why do you keep hiding? Because hiding was easier than seeing the pity in people's eyes. Because hiding meant she didn't have to answer questions about that night. Because hiding meant she didn't have to explain why she survived and Daniel didn't. But she couldn't say any of that to an 8-year-old. Go get dressed, Maya said softly. We'll talk about it later. Lucia's shoulders slumped. She turned and walked away without another word. Maya heard her bedroom door close, not quite a slam, but close enough to sting. The pancakes burned while Maya stood there, staring at her gloved hands. That night 2 years ago played in her mind like a movie she couldn't turn off. She and Daniel had been married for 10 years. He worked at the power company, fixing lines in all kinds of weather. She did alterations for the local dress shop and took in extra sewing work at home. They weren't rich, but they were happy. The fire started just after midnight. Later, the investigators said it was faulty wiring in the bedroom wall. Old house, old problems. Daniel never woke up. The smoke got him first, they told her. Quick and painless, they said, like that made it better. But Maya woke up. She smelled the smoke, saw the orange glow under the bedroom door. She screamed Daniel's name. When he didn't answer, she tried to reach him. The doorknob burned her right hand instantly, but she turned it anyway. The door was already hot, buckling from the heat on the other side. She should have run. The firefighters told her that later, voices gentle but firm. She should have grabbed Lucia from her room and gotten out. But Daniel was in there. Her husband was in there. Maya tried to push through the doorway. The flames caught her sleeves, her hands. She remembered the pain, bright and terrible, before a firefighter pulled her back. She remembered screaming. She remembered Lucia crying in a neighbor's arms outside. She remembered the paramedics working on her hands in the ambulance. She didn't remember much about the funeral. The pain medication kept everything foggy. Her hands were bandaged so thick she looked like she was wearing boxing gloves. Her mother flew in from Arizona and took care of Lucia, while Maya spent 3 weeks in the hospital. The burns were 2nd and 3rd degree, covering most of both hands, some of her wrists, her right forearm. The doctors did what they could. Skin grafts, physical therapy, pain management. They told her she was lucky. Lucky the damage wasn't worse. Lucky she still had full use of her fingers. Lucky to be alive. Maya didn't feel lucky. The scars were angry at first, red and raised and impossible to ignore. They faded over time to a patchwork of pale pink and shiny white tissue. The doctors said they would continue to fade. But even faded, they told a story she didn't want to share. Every ridge and discolored patch asked the same questions. What happened to you? How did you get hurt? Did someone do this to you? And the worst question, the one she asked herself every night, why couldn't you save him? 6 months after the fire, Maya stopped going out. She finished her sessions with the physical therapist and didn't schedule anymore. She picked up sewing jobs she could do from home. She ordered groceries online for delivery. She drove Lucia to school early and picked her up late, timing it so she wouldn't have to make small talk with other parents. The gloves became her uniform. Soft ones for inside the house, longer ones that reached her elbows when she had to go out. She told Lucia they protected her sensitive skin. Lucia was young enough then to accept the explanation without pushing. But Lucia was growing up. And kids noticed things. Maya scraped the burned pancakes into the trash and started over. She made fresh ones and called Lucia back to the kitchen. They ate in silence, the unasked question hanging between them. After Lucia left for school, Maya settled at her sewing machine. 3 dresses, all half finished. Mrs. Patterson's was a mother-of-the-bride dress, champagne-colored lace that needed careful handling. Maya lost herself in the work, her gloved fingers guiding fabric under the needle with practiced precision. The sewing was good. It kept her hands busy and her mind occupied. When she was working, she didn't think about the fire. She didn't think about Daniel. She didn't think about the life she used to have, the one where she went to parent nights and church socials and neighborhood barbecues. Around 3 o'clock, her phone buzzed. A text from the school secretary. Reminder, parent night tonight at 6 p.m. Hope to see you there. Maya stared at the message. She pictured walking into that gymnasium. She imagined taking off her coat, her gloves visible. She imagined the whispers, the stares, the pitying looks. She imagined someone asking what happened, their voice too loud, drawing more attention. She imagined Lucia's face, hopeful and proud, showing off whatever art project she'd made. Maya set down her phone and went back to sewing. At 5:30, Lucia came home. She dropped her backpack by the door and headed straight to her room without saying hello. Maya heard the door close louder this time. Definitely a slam. She should go talk to her. She should explain. She should... something. But Maya stayed at her machine, finishing the hem on Mrs. Patterson's dress. When she finally looked at the clock, it was 6:15. Parent night had started. Lucia was probably at school right now, standing next to her art project, watching the door for a mother who wasn't coming. Maya's hands started to shake. She pulled them into her lap, pressing them together. Even through the gloves, she could feel the ridges of scar tissue, the tight spots that would never fully stretch again. 2 years. It had been 2 years since the fire. 2 years since she'd lost Daniel. 2 years since she'd really lived. She stood up and walked to the window. The sun was setting behind the mountains, turning the sky purple and orange. Other parents were probably at the school right now, admiring their children's work, talking to teachers, being normal. Maya pressed her gloved hands against the cool glass. She watched her reflection, a ghost of the woman she used to be. Daniel used to tell her she was brave. He'd say it whenever she stood up to rude customers at the dress shop, or when she defended Lucia at a playground, or even when she tried a new recipe that might turn out terrible. "You're the bravest person I know," he'd said once, pulling her close. "You don't let fear win." But fear was winning now. It had been winning for 2 years. Maya closed her eyes. Somewhere in town, in a bright gymnasium, Lucia was learning that her mother's fear was bigger than her love, that the opinions of strangers mattered more than being there for her daughter. The realization hit like cold water. She opened her eyes and looked at her hands against the glass. The gloves hid the scars, but they couldn't hide the truth. She wasn't protecting herself by staying home. She was just dying slower, one missed moment at a time. Maya stepped back from the window. It was too late for parent night now, but it wouldn't always be too late. There would be other events, other chances. The question was whether she'd be brave enough to take them. She thought about Daniel, about how he'd rushed into burning buildings when he volunteered with the fire department before Lucia was born. About how he'd said fear was natural but courage was a choice. Maya looked down at her hands. She'd made these scars trying to save the person she loved most in the world. She'd failed, but she'd tried. That had to count for something, didn't it? She walked to Lucia's room and knocked softly. No answer. She opened the door anyway. Lucia was lying on her bed, facing the wall, still in her school clothes. "Baby, go away." Maya sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry." "You're always sorry." Lucia's voice was muffled by her pillow. But you never change. I know. Maya swallowed hard. I know I haven't been fair to you. I know I've been hiding. Lucia rolled over. Her eyes were red from crying. Why, Mama? Why do you hide from everyone? Maya looked at her gloved hands in her lap. Because I'm scared. Of what? Of people looking at me and only seeing what happened. Of them feeling sorry for me. Of them thinking I should have done something different that night. Her voice cracked. Of them thinking I should have died instead of your papa. Lucia sat up fast. That's stupid. Lucia, it is stupid. Papa wouldn't want you to hide. He wouldn't want you to stop living. Tears rolled down Lucia's cheeks. And I need you, Mama. I need you to be my mama again. Not just someone who lives here. The words pierced straight through Maya's defenses. She pulled Lucia into a hug, holding her tight. You're right. You're absolutely right. They stayed like that for a long time, mother and daughter holding each other in the growing darkness. Outside the window, the mountains disappeared into night. Somewhere out there, beyond the town, beyond the places Maya had explored in her old life, those mountains held secrets and silence. She didn't know it yet. But soon those mountains would hold something else. Someone who understood survival. Someone who would show her that scars weren't something to hide. But that was still to come. Tonight, Maya just held her daughter and made a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. I'll try, she whispered into Lucia's hair. I promise I'll try to be braver. Lucia pulled back and looked at her mother's face. You're already brave, Mama, you just forgot. Maya managed a small smile. Maybe Lucia was right. Maybe the bravery was still there, buried under 2 years of fear and grief. Maybe it just needed a reason to come back out. She kissed Lucia's forehead and stood up. How about I make us some real dinner? Not just sad-burned pancakes? Lucia actually smiled. Can we have spaghetti? We can have anything you want. As Maya headed to the kitchen, she paused at her bedroom door. On the dresser sat a framed photo from before the fire. Her and Daniel at the lake, his arm around her shoulders, both of them laughing at something Lucia had said while taking the picture. Maya's hands were bare in the photo, no gloves hiding her skin. She looked at her gloved hands now, then back at the photo. The woman in that picture seemed like a stranger. But maybe, just maybe, she was still in there somewhere. Maya turned away and went to make dinner for her daughter. It was a small thing, just spaghetti on a Tuesday night. But it was something. And something was better than nothing. Outside, the first stars appeared over the mountains. The world kept turning, indifferent to one widow's pain and fear. But somewhere in that vast indifference, change was coming. Sometimes it arrived in ways you never expected, from places you'd never think to look. For Maya Reyes, change would come from the hills, from a man the town called crazy, from someone who understood that survival left marks on a person, visible or not. But she didn't know that yet. Tonight she just made spaghetti and tried to smile at her daughter across the dinner table. Some nights that was enough. 3 weeks passed after the missed parent night. Maya did try in small ways. She went to the grocery store during regular hours instead of late at night. She waved to neighbors instead of looking away. She even answered the door when someone knocked, though her glove stayed firmly in place. Lucia noticed the changes. She didn't say much about them, but she smiled more. That was enough for Maya. Then came the field trip. The permission slip arrived on a Monday. Kennedy Elementary's 3rd grade class was going on a nature hike up Willowbrook Trail, a gentle path that wound through the foothills. Parent volunteers were welcome. Lucia left the paper on the kitchen table without asking, but Maya saw the hope in her eyes every time she glanced at it. Maya signed the permission slip. She didn't volunteer to chaperone, but she signed it. Baby steps. The morning of the field trip was perfect. Clear blue sky. Temperature in the low 70s, just enough breeze to keep things comfortable. Maya watched Lucia board the yellow school bus, backpack bouncing with excitement. Mrs. Chen, the teacher, stood by the door checking off names. 3 parent volunteers climbed on behind the kids. Maya drove home and tried to focus on her sewing. She had a new project, a wedding dress for a bride who lived 2 towns over. Delicate work, lots of beading. It should have kept her mind occupied, but something felt off. She couldn't explain it. Just a tightness in her chest that wouldn't go away. At 1:30, her phone rang. The school secretary, voice shaky. Mrs. Reyes? There's been an incident. Lucia wandered away from the group during the hike. They're searching for her now. The phone nearly slipped from Maya's gloved hand. What do you mean wandered away? They stopped for lunch at the halfway point. When they did a head count after, Lucia was missing. Mrs. Chen thinks she might have gone looking for wildflowers. You know how she likes to pick them. Maya was already grabbing her keys. Where are they? Exactly where? Willowbrook Trail, about 2 miles up from the parking area. The police are on their way, and Maya hung up. She was in her car and driving before she could think. Her hands gripped the wheel so tight her knuckles would have been white if anyone could see them through the gloves. Not Lucia. Please, not Lucia. She made it to the trailhead in 15 minutes. Several cars were already there, including a sheriff's vehicle. Parents stood in clusters, some crying, some on their phones. Maya recognized Diego's mother and Jennifer's dad. Mrs. Chen was talking to a deputy, her face pale. Maya pushed through the group. Where is she? Where's my daughter? Mrs. Chen turned, eyes red. Maya, I'm so sorry. We think she went off the path during lunch. We've been searching for 40 minutes. The deputy says they're bringing more people. 40 minutes? Maya's voice rose. My daughter has been missing for 40 minutes and you're just standing here? Ma'am, we need to coordinate the search. The deputy stepped forward, young guy with a nervous expression. We can't have people wandering around getting lost themselves. We've got more units coming and I'm not waiting. Maya turned toward the trail. Ma'am, please, but Maya was already moving. She heard the deputy calling after her, heard Mrs. Chen saying something about staying calm, but none of it mattered. Lucia was out there somewhere, lost, scared, maybe hurt. Maya ran up the trail faster than she'd moved in 2 years. Her lungs burned. Her legs screamed. She didn't care. Lucia, she shouted. Lucia, baby, where are you? The trail climbed steadily through pine trees and aspens. Maya passed the lunch spot, saw the scattered juice boxes and sandwich wrappers the kids had left behind. She kept going, calling Lucia's name until her throat was raw. The sun was sliding lower. In another few hours it would be dark. Maya thought about Lucia alone in the woods at night, cold and frightened, and pushed herself harder. She didn't know how long she'd been searching when she heard voices ahead, a group of hikers, 3 men in their 20s with expensive gear and cocky attitudes. Have you seen a little girl? Maya gasped out. 8 years old, dark hair, pink jacket? One of them shook his head. Haven't seen anyone. You okay, lady? You look pretty rough. My daughter is missing. Oh man, that's heavy. He pulled out his phone. Want me to call someone? Just keep looking, please tell anyone you see. She kept moving. The main trail branched into smaller paths. Which way would Lucia have gone? She tried to think like an 8-year-old looking for wildflowers. Somewhere with sun, somewhere pretty. Maya took the left branch. It climbed steeper, winding between rock formations. Her calves burned, sweat soaked through her shirt. She pulled off her light jacket and kept going, not even thinking as she tied it around her waist. It wasn't until she stopped to catch her breath that she realized her gloves were visible all the way to her elbows, contrasting against her bare arms. For the first time in 2 years, anyone who looked could see exactly what she was hiding. She didn't care. She didn't even pause. She just kept climbing and calling her daughter's name. The path ended at a rocky overlook. Maya spun in a circle, searching for any sign. Nothing. Just trees and rocks and the distant sound of a creek. She cupped her hands around her mouth. Lucia! Only silence answered. Maya felt something break inside her chest. This couldn't be happening. She couldn't lose Lucia, too. She couldn't survive losing anyone else, please. She whispered, not sure who she was talking to. Daniel, God, the universe. Please, I need help. That's when she remembered what Diego's mother had said once, months ago, voice low like she was sharing a secret. There's a man who lives up in these hills. Old guy, keeps to himself. They say he's crazy, but I don't know. My cousin's kid got lost hiking once, and somehow that old man found him. Just appeared out of nowhere and led him right back to the trail. Maya had filed it away as small-town gossip. Now she grabbed onto it like a lifeline. She knew which direction, roughly. The Hermit lived somewhere north and east, higher up where the hills got serious. It was getting late, but she didn't have a choice. Maya left the trail completely and headed into the woods. The going was rougher here. No clear path, just deer trails and gaps between trees. Branches caught her clothes. Rocks turned under her feet. She fell once, catching herself on her hands, feeling the impact jar through her scarred palms. She got up and kept moving. The sun was touching the mountain peaks when she finally saw it. A small cabin, weathered wood that blended into the hillside. Smoke curled from a metal chimney. A neat stack of firewood sat beside the door. Maya half ran, half stumbled to the cabin. She pounded on the door with both fists. "Please, is anyone home?" "I need help, nothing." She pounded harder, desperation making her hit the door until her hands ached even through the gloves. "Please, my daughter is lost." "I need—" The door opened so suddenly Maya almost fell forward. A man stood there, tall and weathered like an old tree. He had to be at least 60, maybe older. Gray beard, gray hair pulled back, face lined and tanned from sun. His eyes were startling, pale blue and sharp, the kind that didn't miss anything. "You're bleeding," he said. His voice was rough, like he didn't use it much. Maya looked down. Her gloves were torn at the knuckles from pounding on the door. Blood seeped through the fabric. She hadn't even felt it. "I don't care," she said. "My daughter." "She's 8. She got lost on a school field trip. She's been missing for hours, and it's going to be dark soon, and I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't lose her. Please, they say you know these hills. Please help me find her." The man studied her face for a long moment. Then his eyes dropped to her hands, really looking at them. The torn gloves. The blood. The way the fabric pulled tight over scarred tissue. Maya waited for the questions. The pity. The awkward pause that always came when people saw. Instead, the man just nodded once. "Wait here." He disappeared inside. Maya stood on the porch, shaking, feeling the minutes tick past like hours. Every second Lucia was out there alone was a second too long. The man emerged wearing a heavy jacket and carrying what looked like a walking stick. "What's her name?" "Lucia." "Lucia Reyes. Where was she last seen?" "Willowbrook Trail, about 2 miles up." They were having lunch. He was already moving, walking past her with long strides. Maya hurried to follow. He moved through the woods like he was part of them, never hesitating, never slowing. Maya struggled to keep up, crashing through brush that he seemed to glide past. "What's your name?" she asked, breathless. "Thomas Webb. I'm Maya. Thank you for helping. I don't know what else to—" "Save your breath. You'll need it." They moved in silence after that. Thomas led them through the hills in a route that made no sense to Maya, but he walked with certainty. The light was fading fast now, turning everything gray and shadowy. After maybe 20 minutes, Thomas stopped. He crouched down, studying the ground. Maya saw nothing but dirt and pine needles. Thomas pointed. "Small footprint, recent, child-sized shoe, maybe a 7. Lucia wears a 6.5, Maya whispered. Thomas stood and changed direction slightly. She went this way. Looking for something, not running. See how the steps are close together? She was being careful. Maya's heart hammered. Is she okay? Can you tell if she's hurt? Footprints are steady. No dragging. She was walking fine when she made these. Thomas glanced back at her. Try calling her name. Lucia. Maya shouted. Baby, can you hear me? They waited. Nothing but wind in the trees. Thomas kept moving, following signs Maya couldn't see. He moved faster now, more urgent. The walking stick helped him navigate rough spots. Maya tried to keep up, her earlier run catching up with her. Her legs felt like rubber. Her lungs burned. There, Thomas said suddenly. Maya looked where he pointed. At first she saw nothing. Then she caught it, a flash of pink behind a rock formation. Lucia. She ran, Thomas right behind her. Around the rocks they found a small cave, barely big enough to stand in, and there, curled up in the back with her pink jacket pulled tight around her, was Lucia. Mama? Lucia's voice was tiny, scared. Maya dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter into her arms. She held her so tight it probably hurt, but she couldn't let go. Lucia was solid and real and safe. I've got you, baby. I've got you. I got lost, Lucia sobbed into Maya's shoulder. I saw pretty flowers and I followed them, and then I didn't know which way to go. I was so scared. I know, baby. I know, but you're okay now. You're safe. Thomas stood at the cave entrance, giving them space. His expression was unreadable in the dim light. Maya looked up at him, Lucia still clutched in her arms. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know how to— Can she walk? Thomas interrupted. Maya pulled back and checked Lucia over. Are you hurt, honey? Did you twist your ankle or anything? Lucia shook her head. I'm just cold. And thirsty. Thomas pulled a water bottle from his jacket and handed it over. Lucia drank deeply while Maya rubbed her arms to warm her up. We need to move, Thomas said. It'll be full dark in 30 minutes. The searchers will have lights, so we head toward the main trail. They'll find us easier that way. Maya stood, pulling Lucia up with her. That's when she realized her jacket was gone, lost somewhere during her frantic search. Her torn gloves were visible in the fading light, blood-stained and pulled back to reveal the edges of scar tissue on her wrists. Lucia stared at her mother's hands. She'd never seen them uncovered, not since right after the fire. "Mama, your glove?" "It's okay, baby." Maya squeezed Lucia's hand. "Come on, let's go home." Thomas led them through the darkening woods. He moved slower now, checking to make sure they were keeping up. Lucia held Maya's hand tight, stumbling with exhaustion. After a while, Thomas simply picked the girl up and carried her. Lucia didn't protest, just laid her head on his shoulder. They reached the main trail just as full darkness fell. In the distance, Maya could see flashlight beams sweeping through the trees. Voices calling Lucia's name. "Here," Maya shouted. "We're here. We found her." The searchers came running. Deputies, volunteers, other parents. Someone radioed that Lucia was safe. Mrs. Chen cried with relief. Diego's mother hugged Maya so hard it hurt. Everyone was talking at once, asking questions, wanting to know what happened. Maya tried to answer, but she couldn't focus. She was watching Thomas. He'd set Lucia down and was already backing away from the crowd, fading toward the tree line. "Wait," Maya called out. "Please wait." Thomas paused. Maya pushed through the people and walked up to him. Up close, she could see his eyes more clearly now in the flashlight beams. They were kind eyes, she realized. Tired but kind. "You didn't ask," she said quietly. "Ask what?" Maya held up her torn gloves, the scars visible beneath. "About these. Everyone asks. Or they stare. Or they look away too fast. But you didn't." Thomas glanced at her hands, then back at her face. "Figured it wasn't my business. Figured if you wanted to tell me, you would." He paused. "Besides, I know what scars look like. Got plenty of my own." He pushed up his sleeve. Even in the poor light, Maya could see the burn marks on his forearm, the shiny texture of healed tissue. "Afghanistan," he said simply. "Long time ago." They stood there for a moment, two people marked by fire, understanding passing between them without words. "Thank you for finding my daughter," Maya said. "Thank you for asking me to." Thomas gave her a slight nod, something almost like a smile. "Most people in town think I'm crazy, dangerous. They tell their kids to stay away from the hills because I'm up there. I don't care what they think. Maybe you should start." He turned to go. "Take care of that girl. She's brave, hiding in a cave until help came instead of wandering and getting more lost. Smart kid." "Wait," Maya said again. Would it be okay if I came by sometime? To say thank you properly? Maybe bring you some food or something?" Thomas studied her for a long moment. Maya thought he might say no. Instead, he just shrugged. "I'm usually home. Don't get many visitors who aren't lost." Then he was gone, melting into the darkness like he'd never been there at all. A deputy wrapped a blanket around Maya's shoulders. Another one was checking Lucia over, making sure she really was unhurt. Mrs. Chen was apologizing over and over. The other parents were calling their own families, spreading the good news. Maya barely heard any of it. She was looking at her hands, at the torn gloves that had hidden her scars for 2 years. She was thinking about Thomas's eyes, how they'd looked at her without pity, how he'd seen the blood and the scars and just accepted them as fact. Nothing more or less than what they were. She was thinking about how, for the first time since Daniel died, someone had looked at her and seen past the tragedy, seen her as a person, not a victim. Lucia grabbed her hand, the scarred one, and held it tight. "Can we go home now, Mama?" "Yeah, baby." Maya squeezed back. "We can go home." As they walked down the trail toward the parking lot, Maya didn't pull her hand away. She let Lucia hold it, torn glove and all. And when other parents looked, she didn't hide it. She just kept walking, her daughter safe beside her and a strange new feeling growing in her chest. Hope maybe, or possibility, or just the tiniest bit of courage starting to wake up after a long sleep. Whatever it was, it felt like a beginning. Maya stood in her kitchen 4 days later, staring at the casserole dish on the counter. She'd made enchiladas, Daniel's old recipe that he'd learned from his grandmother, enough to feed 4 people, maybe 5. Way too much for a man living alone in the hills. She was stalling. She knew she was stalling. "Are we going or not?" Lucia sat at the kitchen table, already wearing her jacket and hiking boots. She'd been ready for 20 minutes. "We're going." Maya covered the dish with foil. "I just want to make sure it stays warm." "It's fine, Mama, come on." Maya picked up the casserole and her keys. She looked at her hands holding the dish. New gloves, intact ones, cream-colored like always. She'd thrown away the torn pair from the search, but somehow these felt different now. Lighter, maybe. Less like armor. The drive up the mountain road took 30 minutes. Maya had looked up property records to find the general area, then relied on memory from that panicked evening. She found the turnoff, a dirt road barely wide enough for her car. It wound up through the pines until she saw the cabin. In daylight, it looked different. Still weathered, still simple, but not lonely somehow. The woodpile was neat. A small garden grew beside the cabin, late-season vegetables still producing. Wind chimes made from old tools hung from the porch, turning in the breeze. Maya parked and got out. Lucia was already running toward the cabin. Lucia, wait, but the door was opening. Thomas stepped out, looking exactly the same as he had that night. Flannel shirt, worn jeans, boots that had seen a lot of miles. His expression was neutral, but his eyes went to Lucia first, checking that she was okay. "Hi," Lucia waved. "Remember me?" Hard to forget someone who hides in caves. Thomas's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You feeling better?" "Yeah. Mama made me stay home from school for 2 days, even though I was fine." Lucia rolled her eyes in a way that made her seem much older than 8. "She worries a lot." "Lucia," Maya said, walking up with the casserole. "Let Mr. Webb breathe. Thomas is fine." He looked at the dish in Maya's hands. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to. It's not much, just thank you." "For finding her. For helping." Maya held out the casserole. "I made way too much. My husband used to say I cooked like I was feeding an army." Thomas took the dish. For a second, their hands were close together, both gloved. Maya in her cream cotton. Thomas in work gloves worn soft from use. He noticed. She saw his eyes flick to her hands, then away, respectful. "Would you like to come in?" he asked. "I was just making tea." Maya hesitated. She'd planned to drop off the food and leave. Quick and simple, but Lucia was already nodding eagerly, and something in Thomas's careful politeness made her want to stay. "If we're not interrupting." "I don't get interrupted much." Thomas held the door open. "Watch the step. It's uneven." The cabin's interior surprised Maya. She'd expected sparse, maybe messy. Instead, it was clean and organized. The main room served as kitchen, dining area, and living space. A wood stove sat in one corner, warmth radiating from it. But what caught her eye was the furniture. Every piece looked handmade. The table was smooth pine, legs carved with simple patterns. The chairs matched, each one slightly different. A bookshelf against one wall held maybe 40 books, arranged by size, and everywhere small wooden figures. A bear on the windowsill. An eagle on the mantel. A fox beside the door. "Did you make these?" Maya picked up the fox, turning it in her hands. The detail was incredible. Individual whiskers carved into the wood. Eyes that seemed almost alive. "Keeps my hands busy." Thomas set the casserole on the stove to stay warm. "I've got tea or water. Or coffee if you want to wait for it to brew. Tea is good." Maya set down the fox carefully. "These are beautiful." "Really beautiful?" Thomas shrugged, but she caught a hint of pride in his eyes. He poured tea from a kettle into 3 mismatched mugs. The tea smelled like pine and something else, herbs maybe. Lucia wandered around the cabin, looking at everything. "Do you live here all alone?" "Just me. Don't you get lonely?" "Lucia," Maya said sharply, but Thomas didn't seem bothered. "Sometimes, but lonely's better than some alternatives." He handed Maya a mug. Their fingers brushed glove to glove again. The moment felt strangely intimate, 2 people hiding the same kind of damage. They sat at the table. Lucia peppered Thomas with questions about the woods, about tracking, about the animals he'd seen. Thomas answered patiently, his gruff voice softening when he talked to her. Maya sipped her tea and watched. This man had saved her daughter. This man the town called crazy, dangerous, someone to avoid. But here he was, gentle with a child, offering them tea, living a quiet life that hurt no one. "How long have you lived up here?" Maya asked during a break in Lucia's interrogation. 10 years, give or take." Thomas cradled his mug in both hands. "Built the cabin myself. Took 2 years to get it livable." "You built this whole place?" "Had a lot of time. And a lot of reasons to stay busy." The way he said it made Maya think there was a story there. She wanted to ask, but something held her back. Privacy. The same thing she'd wanted from others for 2 years. "The furniture is amazing." she said instead. Do you sell your work? No, just make things for myself. Or give them away sometimes. He glanced at Lucia. You like that fox? Lucia's eyes got huge. Really? I can have it?
If your mother says it's okay. Mama, can I?
Please? Maya looked at Thomas. He met her gaze steadily, no awkwardness, no pity, just offering a gift to a child who'd been lost and scared. That's very generous, Maya said. What do you say, Lucia? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lucia grabbed the fox and hugged it to her chest. They stayed for another hour. Thomas showed them his garden, pointed out where deer came to eat in the evenings, explained how he collected rainwater to supplement his well. Lucia was fascinated by everything. Maya found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in years. There was something peaceful about being here. No judgment, no whispers. Just the wind in the trees and a quiet man who asked for nothing. When they finally left, Maya felt lighter. She looked at Thomas standing on his porch, hand raised in a small wave. Can we come back? Lucia asked from the car. Maya started the engine. Maybe, if Mr. Webb doesn't mind. Thomas, Lucia corrected. He said to call him Thomas, Maya smiled. If Thomas doesn't mind. They did go back. The next week, Maya brought fresh bread. The week after that, she brought vegetables from the farmer's market. Thomas always accepted with quiet thanks and always invited them in for tea. On the fourth visit, Lucia asked if Thomas could teach her to carve. Maya expected him to say no. It was dangerous giving a child a knife and sharp tools, but Thomas just nodded and pulled out a small piece of soft pine and a dulled blade. First lesson, he said, always cut away from yourself. Always. Maya watched him guide Lucia's hands, patient and careful. She noticed his forearms, exposed since he'd rolled up his sleeves in the warm cabin. The burn scars were more extensive than she'd thought. They wrapped around both arms, disappearing under the fabric. Thomas caught her looking. For a moment, their eyes met. Then he spoke, voice low so Lucia wouldn't hear over her concentration. IED. Roadside bomb. My convoy got hit. I was the only one who made it out. Maya's throat tightened. I'm sorry. Me too. Thomas turned back to Lucia's carving. Every day I'm sorry. The words hung between them. Maya understood them in her bones. The guilt of surviving. The question that never went away. Why me and not them? House fire, she said quietly. 2 years ago. My husband didn't make it. Thomas nodded slowly. He didn't say anything stupid like, I'm sure you did everything you could, or it wasn't your fault. He just nodded, acknowledging the weight of it. Is that why you came up here? Maya asked. To get away from people? To get away from the pity. The questions. The way people looked at me like I was broken. Thomas's jaw tightened. I wasn't broken. Just different, changed. People don't know what to do with changed. No, Maya whispered. They don't. She held up her gloved hands. Thomas looked at them, really looked this time. I haven't taken these off in public since it happened, Maya said. Haven't let anyone see except doctors. Even Lucia barely remembers what my hands look like underneath. Why not? Because people stare. Or they don't stare, but they want to. They feel sorry for me. They whisper about what I could have done differently. About how I survived and he didn't. Her voice broke. I couldn't take it. So I hid. Thomas was quiet for a moment. Hiding doesn't make it hurt less. I know. But it makes it private. The pain stays mine. Nobody else gets to make it about them. Fair enough. Thomas stood and walked to his bookshelf. He pulled down a wooden box and brought it back to the table. Inside were photographs. This was my unit. 23 people. We were like family. Maya looked at the faces. Young men and women smiling in desert camouflage. Thomas was there too, younger, less weathered, but recognizable. This is Rodriguez. He was going to be a teacher. This is Chen. She wanted to open a restaurant. This is Williams. He had a baby girl he'd never met. Thomas's finger moved across the photos. I can tell you every one of their stories. Their dreams. What they were going to do when they got home. But they didn't get home, no, and I did. And for a long time, I thought that meant I should have done more. Should have seen the bomb. Should have driven a different route. Should have died instead of them. Thomas closed the box. Took me years to understand that surviving wasn't the same as being at fault. Maya felt tears on her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away.
How did you learn that?
By living up here. By working with my hands. By accepting that scars aren't shame. He looked at her directly. They're proof we survived something that tried to break us. That's not nothing. But people don't see it that way. Some don't, some do. The ones who matter will see you, not just what happened to you. Thomas's voice was gentle but firm. But you've got to let them see you first. Can't control how people react to scars, only whether you let those reactions control you. Lucia looked up from her carving. Look, Mama, I made a heart. Maya wiped her eyes quickly and smiled. That's beautiful, baby. Thomas stood and went to check on dinner. He'd started cooking for them on their visits, simple meals but good. Tonight was venison stew, meat from a deer he'd hunted last season. Maya watched him move around the small kitchen. This man who'd lost everything and rebuilt a life here in the hills. This man who chose solitude but opened his door when someone asked for help. This man who really understood, what it meant to carry the weight of survival. Over dinner, Lucia talked about school, about her friends, about the art project she was working on. Thomas listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was really paying attention. My teacher says we're having a fall festival next month, Lucia said through a mouthful of stew. There's going to be games and food and a costume contest. Sounds fun, Thomas said. Mama's going to come. Lucia looked at Maya with such hope it hurt. Right, Mama? Maya's first instinct was to make an excuse. Too much work. Too many people. Too uncomfortable. But she looked at Thomas, at his scarred forearms resting casually on the table. At the life he'd built despite everything. At the quiet strength that came from accepting what he couldn't change and working with what he could. Right, Maya said. I'll be there. Lucia's smile could have lit up the whole mountain. After dinner, as they were getting ready to leave, Thomas walked them to the car. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. It was beautiful up here, peaceful. Thank you for dinner, Maya said, and for the carving lesson, and for... She gestured vaguely, not sure how to finish. For understanding, Thomas supplied. Yeah, for understanding. You're welcome here any time, both of you. He looked at Maya. And for what it's worth, I think you're braver than you give yourself credit for. I don't feel brave. Bravery isn't about not feeling scared. It's about feeling scared and doing things anyway. Thomas smiled, a real smile this time. You came up here to thank a stranger. You brought your daughter. You told me things you haven't told anyone. That's brave. Maya didn't know what to say to that. She just nodded and got in the car. On the drive home, Lucia fell asleep clutching her wooden fox. Maya glanced at her daughter in the rearview mirror, then down at her gloved hands on the steering wheel. Scars aren't shame, Thomas had said. They're proof we survived. Maya flexed her fingers, feeling the tight pull of scar tissue under the fabric. Maybe he was right. Maybe hiding wasn't protection. Maybe it was just another kind of prison. She thought about the fall festival. About standing in a crowded school gymnasium with her daughter. About maybe, just maybe, taking off the gloves. The thought terrified her, but it also felt like possibility. She'd go, she decided. She'd go to the festival and she'd try, one step at a time, one moment of bravery after another. Thomas had survived his nightmare and built something new. Maybe she could too. Maybe she already was. As Maya drove down the mountain toward home, the last light of day caught the peaks in gold. Behind her, somewhere in those hills, Thomas Webb was probably settling in for the evening. Carving something new, living his quiet, scarred, beautiful life, and somehow, just knowing he was there, knowing someone understood, made Maya's own life feel a little less heavy, a little more possible, a little more like something worth living fully instead of just surviving. The first snow came early that year, 3 weeks before the fall festival. Maya woke to find everything covered in white, the mountains wrapped in silence. She made coffee and stood at her window, watching the world transform. Her phone rang. Thomas. He'd started calling once a week or so, short conversations about nothing much. She'd given him her number after their third visit, scribbled on a napkin. He'd looked at it for a long moment before carefully folding it and putting it in his pocket. Roads are probably bad, Thomas said when she answered. You two okay down there? We're fine. Plenty of food. Heat's working. Maya smiled even though he couldn't see it. Worried about us? Just checking. A pause. Storm's supposed to get worse tonight. If you need anything, let me know. We will. You have enough firewood? Always do. But thanks for asking. After they hung up, Maya realized she was still smiling. It felt strange having someone check on her, not because they pitied her or felt obligated, but because they actually cared. The snow kept falling. By afternoon, there was over a foot on the ground. Lucia played outside, building a snowman with sticks for arms. Maya watched from the window, her gloved hands wrapped around a warm mug. That evening, the power went out. Maya found candles and flashlights. The house had a gas fireplace, so they had heat, but the temperature was dropping fast outside. Single digits, the radio said before it went silent. "It's an adventure, Mama," Lucia said, delighted by the candlelight. Maya tried to share her enthusiasm, but she kept thinking about Thomas up in the hills. His cabin was even more remote than their house. Did he have enough supplies? Was his wood stove working properly? She told herself she was being silly. Thomas had survived 10 years up there. He knew what he was doing, but around 9 o'clock her phone rang. The school secretary, voice tight with stress. "Mrs. Reyes, we're organizing a check on families with the power out. Are you two okay?" "We're fine. Gas heat, good. Listen, we've got a bigger problem. 4 hikers got caught in the storm up on Blackstone Ridge. They called for help 2 hours ago. Search and rescue can't get up there, roads are impassable. The sheriff's trying to organize something, but..." She trailed off. Maya's stomach dropped. "What about Thomas Webb?" "Who?" "The man who found Lucia. He lives up in those hills. He knows them better than anyone." Silence. Then, "Mrs. Reyes, that man is..." "Well, people say he's not stable." "People are wrong." Maya's voice went hard. "He saved my daughter. He knows those mountains. And right now, 4 people are dying up there while everyone sits around being too proud to ask for help." More silence. "The sheriff's at the community center coordinating. If you want to suggest it, I can't stop you." Maya hung up and looked at Lucia. "Baby, I need to go out for a little while." "In the snow?" "There are people in trouble. I need to help." Maya grabbed her heaviest coat. "Mrs. Patterson next door can come sit with you." "I want to come. No, it's too dangerous. I'll be back as soon as I can, I promise." She called Mrs. Patterson, who came over immediately. Then Maya got in her car and started driving. The roads were terrible, but she went slow. Her hands gripped the wheel so tight they ached. The community center was chaos. Maybe 30 people crowded inside, talking over each other. The sheriff stood at the front, trying to get everyone organized. Maya recognized parents from school, business owners from town, volunteers from the fire department. She pushed through the crowd. "Sheriff Harris?" He looked exhausted. "Mrs. Reyes, if you're here to help, I know someone who can find those hikers." "Thomas Webb. He lives up past Willowbrook Trail." Several people turned to stare. Maya heard whispers. "That crazy guy?" "The Hermit. He's dangerous." "He's not dangerous," Maya said loudly. "He's a veteran who knows these mountains better than anyone here. He found my daughter in less than an hour when she was lost. He can find these hikers." "Ma'am, with all respect," Sheriff Harris said carefully, "Mr. Webb hasn't exactly been cooperative with law enforcement in the past. Have you ever actually talked to him, or do you just believe what people say?" The sheriff's jaw tightened. "I don't have time for this. We need to focus on what? You can't get up there. Your trucks can't make it. Your people don't know the terrain." Maya's voice rose. 4 people are going to freeze to death tonight while you all stand here talking. At least let me try to get Thomas to help." A woman Maya recognized from the grocery store spoke up. "She's right. My nephew was one of the kids on that school trip. He said that Webb guy showed up out of nowhere and knew exactly where to look." "Maybe we should listen." Others murmured agreement. The sheriff looked around, seeing the shift in the room. "Fine," he said, "but I'm sending someone with you. Deputy Collins, you're with Mrs. Reyes." The young deputy from Lucia's search stepped forward, still looking nervous. Maya didn't care. She was already heading for the door. The drive to Thomas's cabin took twice as long as usual. Snow kept falling thick and heavy. The deputy followed in his patrol car, lights flashing uselessly in the white. When they finally reached the cabin, smoke was pouring from the chimney. "Thank God," Maya knocked hard. "Thomas, it's Maya!" He opened the door immediately, surprise crossing his face when he saw her. "What's wrong?" "Is Lucia's fine. But 4 hikers are stranded on Blackstone Ridge. Search and rescue can't reach them. The sheriff's at the community center, but nobody knows what to do." She grabbed his arm. "Thomas, they're going to die out there if someone doesn't find them soon." Thomas looked past her at the deputy standing awkwardly by the patrol car. His expression hardened.